The fork paused halfway to my mouth when my wife laughed and said, "See, that's what a real man looks like." We were at dinner with her best friend Claire and Claire's husband Evan. The kind of dinner where the lights are warm, the music is low, and everyone pretends their life is neat and sorted. Linen napkins, candles, a waiter who says, "Enjoy," like he means it. And my wife, Lena, said that line like it was harmless, like she was teasing. But she wasn't even looking at me when she said it. She was looking at Evan. Evan was telling a story about how he'd handled a work crisis, something about a client, a last-minute flight, a problem that could have cost millions. He delivered it like he was reading a movie script, calm, confident, smiling. Claire touched his arm like he'd hung the moon. Lena leaned forward with this bright-eyed admiration I hadn't seen in a while, and she did that little laugh again. "God," she said. "Claire, you are so lucky." Then she turned, and for the first time all night she focused directly on me. "Must be nice," she added, "being married to someone who just knows what to do." I remember blinking like I'd misheard, like maybe the clink of glasses had swallowed the real words. But the table went quiet in a way that told me I'd heard every syllable perfectly. Claire gave a small, nervous smile. Evan cleared his throat and took a sip of water, suddenly fascinated by the condensation on the glass. And Lena, my wife, the person who used to squeeze my knee under the table when she thought I was funny, kept going. "You know," she said, waving her hand like she was brushing crumbs off a counter. "Some men are just built different." She nodded toward Evan again. "He's decisive, he's driven, honestly, he's a provider in that classic way. It's attractive." My face warmed like I'd stepped too close to an oven. I tried to joke because that's what I do when something hurts. "Guess I'll start practicing my classic provider look," I said, forcing a laugh. "Do I need a cape or—" Lena cut me off, smiling but not kindly. "Don't do that. Don't make it a joke." That was the detonator, not the comparison itself, though that was bad enough, but the way she denied me even the dignity of coping. She wanted it to land, and then she said the sentence that changed the whole night. "Honestly?" Lena's voice went soft, almost sweet. "Sometimes I wonder what my life would look like if I'd married someone like him." It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It hit the table like a dropped plate. The first 10 seconds after that felt like a lifetime. No one moved. No one breathed properly. The waiter floated by and sensed danger and kept walking. I stared at the candle flame because looking at her felt like looking straight at my own humiliation. Part of me expected her to blink, to realize what she'd said, to panic and take it back. Instead, she sat there with this calm, satisfied expression, like she'd finally said something true after holding it in too long. And in that moment, I realized she didn't think she was being cruel. She thought she was being honest. We had been married for 4 years, together for 7. We weren't some disaster couple. We paid rent on time. We had a shared grocery list. We knew each other's coffee orders. We'd hosted game nights. We'd taken cute photos at weddings. We had a life that looked stable from the outside. But the last year had been tense. I worked a job that didn't impress people. It was solid, it paid the bills, and I was proud of the work. But it wasn't glamorous. I managed operations for a local logistics company. The kind of job where you're making sure trucks are where they need to be, routes are efficient, everything runs on time. People only notice you when something goes wrong. Lena worked in marketing. She was sharp, social, good at reading rooms. And lately she'd gotten obsessed with a certain kind of life. The kind you see online. Couples traveling, couples renovating, couples leveling up, couples with husbands who wore watches that cost more than my car. I knew she followed Claire and Evan closely. Claire posted a lot. Their brunches, their vacations, Evan's surprise gifts. The captions were always some version of grateful and blessed and goals. What I didn't realize is that Lena wasn't just watching them. She was measuring me against him. After that dinner, the comparison didn't stay at the table. It followed us home. In the car, I drove with both hands on the wheel like I needed the control. Lena stared out the window, scrolling on her phone, calm as if she'd just discussed the weather. "Are you serious right now?" I finally said, my voice too quiet for how angry I was. She sighed like I was the inconvenience. "What?" "What you said," I snapped. "In front of them." Lena's eyes flicked to me, then away. "Oh my God." "No," I said. Don't oh my god me. You said you wonder what your life would look like if you married someone like Evan. She shrugged. I was talking. It's not a crime. It was humiliating, I said. I didn't mean it that way, she replied. And the way she said it, flat, dismissive, made my hands tighten on the wheel. Then how did you mean it? She exhaled, annoyed. I meant, Evan has ambition. He has direction. Claire doesn't have to worry. She's taken care of. And yes, I envy that. I waited for the part where she said, but I love you. I waited for her to soften. Instead, she added, and if you're honest, you envy him too. That's how she did it. She turned my pain into a flaw. Like if I reacted, it proved her point. At home, she went straight to bed without another word. I stood in the kitchen staring at the sink, listening to the hum of the fridge, feeling like I'd been left in a room where everyone else had already moved on. I didn't sleep that night. I replayed the scene on a loop. Her smile, the silence, Evan's awkward sip, Claire's frozen face. And the worst part was the thought that kept coming back. If she can say that in public, what does she say when I'm not there? Over the next few weeks, it got worse in small ways that were harder to call out. She'd watch a video of some couple doing a house tour and say, Evan would never let Claire live somewhere like this. She'd see a man in a suit and whisper, that's what a husband is supposed to look like. She started using the word supposed a lot. Like there was a manual for life and I'd failed to read it. And then it started spreading into our friends, our family, our social circle. At a birthday party, someone asked me about work, and before I could answer, Lena jumped in. He's still at that place, she said with a little laugh. You know, the truck job, I corrected her gently. It's operations management. She waved her hand. Same thing. People laughed politely. I laughed too, because what else do you do when your own wife turns you into a punchline? Later, in the car, I said, why do you do that? She looked genuinely confused. Do what? Minimize me. Lena rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. You're so sensitive lately. Sensitive, that word became her favorite weapon. If I asked her to stop, I was sensitive. If I got quiet, I was moody. If I tried to explain, I was defensive. There was no version of my feelings that she respected. And then came the money. It started with, we deserve better. We deserve a better apartment. We deserve a better car. We deserve to travel more. We deserve nice things. And maybe we did, but deserve quickly turned into owe. She sent me listings for places we couldn't afford and said, Claire and Evan would never settle for less. She asked why we didn't have a house yet like they did, why we didn't have a kitchen island, why we didn't have a garage, why we didn't have a dog. One night she showed me a picture of Claire's new ring. Bigger, shinier. Evan upgraded it, she said, like it was a normal thing to do, like men just did ring upgrades the way you update your phone. I laughed because it was absurd. Upgrade it? Like a software update? Lena didn't laugh. She just stared at me. And then she said it, quiet and cold. See? That's the problem. You don't take anything seriously. My stomach dropped. A ring upgrade isn't serious. It's effort, she snapped. It's love. It's wanting your wife to feel proud. Proud of what? I said, and I regretted it immediately because her face shifted like a door slamming shut. Proud, she repeated slower. Of her life. Of her husband. I swear I could feel the air change in the room. That night I opened our budget spreadsheet. I looked at our savings. I looked at what was coming in, what was going out. I knew the numbers. I always knew the numbers. And I realized something terrifying. Lena didn't want a partner. She wanted a symbol, a husband that made her look like she'd won. The more I tried to keep up, the more trapped I became. I took on extra hours. I picked up freelance work on weekends. I said yes to every request because I kept thinking, if I just prove myself, she'll stop. But she didn't stop, because the comparison wasn't about me improving. It was about me never being enough. The social consequences hit next. Lena started spending more time with Claire and Evan. More double dates, more dinners. More group outings where I felt like a background character in my own marriage. At one dinner, Evan told another story, another million-dollar problem he'd solved. And Lena laughed a little too hard, leaned a little too close. At one point, Evan was in the restroom and Claire was on the phone outside. Lena looked at me and said, Do you ever wonder what it's like to be married to someone who has presence? I stared at her. Presence? You know, she said, smiling. When someone walks into a room and people listen. I wanted to say, people listen because he's loud. People listen because he likes the sound of his own voice. People listen because he's trained himself to perform. But instead, I said, why are you doing this to me? And she said, I'm not doing anything. I'm telling you the truth. Truth. Another weapon. By the time we got home, my chest felt tight like it was being squeezed from the inside. I sat on the edge of the bed and said, Lena, do you even like me? She looked annoyed. Why are you being dramatic? I swallowed. I'm not. I don't feel respected. I don't feel safe. You talk about Evan like he's the standard and I'm the mistake. She stared at me for a long moment, and for a second I thought I saw something in her face. Guilt, maybe. But then she said, you want respect? Then become someone worthy of it. That's when something inside me went very still. Not angry, not explosive, just still. Because if your spouse can look you in the eye and say that, it doesn't matter how many hours you work or how much money you bring home, or how carefully you plan your future. It's not a rough patch. It's a verdict. The next morning, I went to work like everything was normal. I answered emails, I scheduled shipments, I solved problems, but I felt like I was moving through water. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. Lena's little smirks when I talked, the way she corrected me in public, the way she praised other men in front of me, the way she posted pictures of Claire and Evan with captions like, couple goals, and never posted anything about us. One afternoon I got home early and Lena wasn't there. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table. She usually guarded that thing like a vault. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear I wasn't. But the screen was bright and right there. A group chat popped up. It was Lena, Claire, and another friend. And the last message was from Lena. I can't believe I have to beg him to level up. Claire, you're so lucky. Evan would never. My hands went cold. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. I scrolled, not even fully choosing to. Like my finger was moving on its own. There were jokes about my job, screenshots of things I'd said, mocked. A message where Lena wrote, he thinks being nice is enough. Claire replied with a laughing emoji and said, girl, you deserve better. And then Lena wrote, sometimes I feel like I married down. I sat down hard on a chair like my legs had stopped working. So it wasn't just in my head. It wasn't just her being honest. It was a narrative she was feeding and growing with an audience. And here's the worst part. The villain wasn't Evan. Evan was just the mirror. The villain was the way Lena needed to feel superior, even if it meant making me smaller. She came home humming, carrying a little shopping bag. She saw my face and froze. What's wrong? She asked, like she didn't already know. I stood up slowly. I saw your messages. Her eyes narrowed. Why were you on my laptop? I laughed once, sharp and bitter. That's your question? Yes, she snapped. That's an invasion of privacy. I stared at her. You humiliated me in front of your friends. You've compared me to Evan for months, and you're in a group chat calling me pathetic and saying you married down. Lena's face flushed. You're twisting it. Am I? I said. My voice surprised me. It was calm, because it looked pretty clear. She put the bag down and crossed her arms. You shouldn't be reading my conversations. And there it was again. The dodge, the shift, the refusal to own anything. I felt something in me settle into place like a decision had been made before I even spoke. Lena, I said quietly, do you want to be married to me? She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, I want to be married to someone who matches me. That sentence should have been the end. It should have ended everything right there. Instead, I did what I always did. I tried to fix it. I can match you, I said. Tell me what you want. Like for real. Not comparisons, not vague. Tell me. Lena's eyes flicked over me, assessing like a buyer judging a product. I want a house. I want a better car. I want vacations. I want stability. I want to stop feeling embarrassed when I compare our life to theirs. Embarrassed. She said it like my existence was a stain. Something inside me cracked, but it wasn't loud. It was more like a rope finally snapping after months of tension. Okay, I said. Lena blinked, thrown off by the lack of fight. Okay? I nodded. Okay, you're right. Her expression softened slightly, like she thought she'd won. And then I said the line that changed everything for her. But you won't get those things from me. The softness vanished. What are you talking about? I'm talking about reality, I said. You don't love me. You love what you think a husband should represent. And I can't live my life chasing your moving target while you disrespect me in public and private. Lena scoffed. So you're just giving up? No, I said. I'm letting go. Her eyes sharpened. Of what? Of the version of me that keeps accepting this, I replied. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. For the first time in months, I didn't feel small. I felt clear. That night, I slept on the couch. The next morning, I called my brother and told him I needed a place for a few days. Saying it out loud felt unreal, like I was narrating someone else's life. Lena stood in the doorway while I packed a bag. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't apologize. She said, "You're going to regret this." And I almost laughed, because the only regret I felt was how long it took me to stop accepting scraps. The days that followed were brutal in a quiet way. No dramatic screaming, no slammed doors. Just messages from Lena that swung between anger and mockery, and suddenly sweet when she sensed I wasn't coming back easily. "You're overreacting." I was just venting. Everyone vents. "You're going to throw away our marriage because you got your feelings hurt?" When that didn't work, she switched tactics. "I miss you." I didn't mean it. "Can we talk?" I agreed to meet in a public place, coffee shop, daylight, witnesses. Not because I was scared she'd do something big, but because I didn't trust the way she rewrote reality. When she arrived, she looked perfect. Hair done, outfit curated, the version of her that could sell anything. She slid into the seat across from me and said softly, "I'm sorry." My chest tightened. I wanted to believe it so badly. "What are you sorry for?" I asked. Lena blinked. "For you being upset." There it was. Not sorry for what she did. Sorry for the inconvenience of my reaction. I stared at her and felt something in me go still again. But this time it wasn't pain. It was acceptance. "I'm filing for separation," I said. Her eyes widened, and for the first time her mask cracked. "Are you serious?" "Yes." She leaned forward, voice hissing now. "So you're going to leave because you can't handle being compared to a better man?" That's when I understood something I hadn't fully admitted yet. Lena didn't see me as a person. She saw me as a status level she didn't want to be stuck on. I stood up, calm. "I'm leaving because you treat me like I'm less than human." Her jaw clenched. "You're making yourself a victim." "No," I said. "I'm just not volunteering anymore." I walked out of the coffee shop and felt the air hit my face like a reset. The weeks turned into months. The separation became real in paperwork, in logistics, in dividing things that used to be ours. The financial consequences were immediate. 2 rents and legal fees, untangling accounts. But something weird happened. Even while my bank account got tighter, my chest felt lighter. I stopped waking up bracing for a comment. I stopped fearing a dinner invite. I stopped checking my tone so I wouldn't trigger her. And then the social consequences hit her. Mutual friends started noticing. Not all at once, but like a slow tilt. At one gathering, someone asked where I was, and Lena apparently said he couldn't handle the pressure of being with someone like me. Word got back to me through a friend who looked uncomfortable delivering it. I didn't retaliate. I didn't post. I didn't make announcements. I just kept living. And the people who mattered, they started reaching out quietly. "Are you okay?" "I didn't realize she talked to you like that." "I'm sorry," I laughed when she made jokes. Those messages didn't feel like victory. They felt like closure. The biggest emotional consequence, though, was the grief. Not for Lena as she was, but for Lena as I thought she could be. I mourned the early years, the knee squeezes, the inside jokes, the way we used to dream together before she started dreaming in comparisons. I went to therapy, and the therapist said something simple that stuck with me. "You can't build a home with someone who keeps measuring the walls against another house." I started rebuilding in small ways, cooking again, sleeping through the night, going for runs, saying no without guilt. And slowly, the voice in my head that sounded like Lena got quieter. Then, one evening, Claire texted me. We hadn't spoken directly in a long time. I stared at her name on the screen like it was a trap. The message read, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad it got. "Are you okay?" I didn't respond immediately. I didn't want to pour my pain into someone who'd laughed along, but after a while I typed back, "I'm okay. I'm rebuilding." She replied a minute later, "Lena's been spiraling. She blames you. She blames me. She blames Evan." I stared at that line, because that was the system Lena lived inside. If she wasn't happy, someone else had to be at fault. Claire's next message came in. "For what it's worth, Evan isn't who she thinks he is. He just performs well." I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. It didn't matter. The truth wasn't that Evan was secretly terrible or secretly perfect. The truth was that no human can survive being compared to a fantasy someone refuses to stop chasing. A few months after the separation was finalized, I ran into Lena by accident at a grocery store. She looked tired, not messy. Lena never looked messy, but tired in the eyes. For a moment, we just stared at each other between the produce and the cereal aisle, like two people who once shared a life and now shared nothing. She took a step closer and said, quieter than I expected, "You look good." I nodded. "I feel good." Her lips pressed together. "Must be nice." There was a time when that tone would have hooked me, would have made me want to explain myself, defend myself, prove something. But I didn't. I just said, "It is." Lena looked like she wanted to say more, like she wanted to pull the old thread of power back into her hand. Then her eyes flicked away, and she said almost to herself, "I thought I wanted more." I watched her for a second. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her. I just saw her clearly. "I hope you find what you want," I said. She laughed once, small and bitter. "You too." And then she walked away. I stood there with a carton of eggs in my hand, feeling something settle deep inside me. Peace, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't need applause. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment, the kind of apartment Lena would have called settling. I ate dinner on a folding table because I hadn't bought a real one yet. The place wasn't impressive. It wasn't curated. It wasn't a photo, but it was mine. No one here looked at me like I was a mistake. No one here needed me to be someone else to feel proud. I thought back to that dinner, the candles, the linen napkins, Lena's smile as she said she wondered what life would be like if she'd married someone like Evan. I realized the most painful part wasn't the comparison. It was the fact that I stayed long enough to start believing it. And the most freeing part wasn't leaving her. It was coming back to myself. If this story made you feel something, subscribe. More stories like this are coming.